Good day, gentlemen. I've been with my girl for over 6.5 years, and we've built an extremely peaceful, secure, and fulfilling relationship together. But the honest truth is, for the first few years of that relationship, I was massively anxious about everything. I had these thoughts running around in my head that she doesn't even love me, that she just acts like she loves me, that she's cheating on me, that she's gonna leave me any day, basically. And these thoughts often distracted me from my work, which of course held me back in my goals, essentially. But then it also kept me awake at night for hours, sometimes even while I was literally lying in the same bed as her. And the catch is, rationally, there were zero red flags. There was nothing that I actually had to worry about. I knew rationally that all these fears weren't true, but emotionally, they felt very fucking true. Emotionally, these fears actually often took over and made me act in ways that wasn't me, essentially. They made me act defensive, made me act offensive, made me shut down, made me just act inauthentic and almost boyish, immature. And the thing is, this was so painful for me to witness because I knew that if I could just overcome these fears and these thoughts and this anxiousness, then I could finally go all in with this relationship and actually build the relationship that I wanted with her and actually build our life together, essentially, which is exactly what I wanted. And now we are doing exactly that because I've actually learned how to overcome this, and I actually have fully overcome this. I've become so secure that at this current point, we're on long distance quite a bit. We're on long distance for months, like on and off, and I barely ever get any anxious thoughts. And if I do get those anxious thoughts, I know exactly how to handle them and how to actually overcome them quickly so they don't interfere with what I actually want from this relationship and with who I actually want to show up as. So what I'm gonna do in this video is compress 6.5 years of brutally honest truths and lessons about anxious attachment and how to actually overcome it. Lessons and truths that I wish I could have given my younger self a couple years ago when he was stuck in this situation, so that you can actually overcome anxious attachment once and for all and actually build the relationship that you and your girl actually deserve. We'll jump right into this. So for lesson number 1, you might already know that when you are anxiously attached, it makes you act in ways that is not you. You are not you in those moments. There's a German commercial that made me just think of about Snickers. I don't know if it's the same in English, maybe it is, but in German it's like, you're not yourself when you're hungry, Snickers. Anyway. Thing is, you are not yourself when you're anxiously attached, right? You don't act as you would truly act. And after those situations where you maybe shut down or you had these anxious thoughts pop up, you're like, why the fuck did I act in those ways? Like, that wasn't me, right? So why the fuck does this happen? Well, it happens because anxious attachment and any insecure attachment, anxious avoidant or anxiously avoidant, all those three, what it really is a protection mechanism, right? But then you might be like, okay, Benny, sounds good, but what am I protecting myself from? Well, let's dive into that because it's very important for you to understand this. When we go back to our early ancestors, what was the number one cause of death for them? It was being alone, loneliness. Not because loneliness is inherently bad and unhealthy for us, but because by being alone, by not being part of a tribe or part of a family, it was so much easier for our early ancestors to get killed by some animal, or get killed by other tribesmen from another tribe, or get killed by some virus, right? Now, what does heartbreak feel like? Exactly. It feels like you're dying. And that's exactly this. Because, of course, heartbreak these days won't kill you anymore. Getting kicked out of your friend group or out of a company that you worked for or out of your family, it won't kill you anymore. But it certainly still feels like you're getting killed or you're dying because that's how we're hardwired as humans. And anxious attachment is one of those things that can protect you from that. Because the moment that your partner or a friend, this also applies in friend groups, right? The moment that someone pulls away from you, let's go with your partner because we talk about relationships here. Let's say your girl pulls away from you. What do? You run after her, you grab on with everything that you can, you maybe manipulate her in certain ways so she comes back, right? You protest against her pulling away in order to get her back, in order to pull her back, essentially. And usually what that leads to, or of course, in the long run, it usually leads to that person still breaking up with you because you're needy and all that stuff, right? But in the short term, it often just causes you to like pull them back and feel secure again in that very moment, which is all that you want in that very moment. But this is not you. This is your hurt younger self that maybe had some kind of abandonment experiences and is still just so afraid of getting abandoned. Because the thing is, and in general, even if you didn't have any abandonment experiences, human children are only able to survive by themselves at like 7 or 8 years old, even in today's society. A human child can't survive before it's like 7 or 8 years old. And now you're obviously much older than that. But your attachment system, that part of your nervous system that's, well, responsible for forming attachments, that attachment system is still hardwired in a way where it thinks that you need people around you, that you will die if you're alone, essentially. And this is the very reason why everyone can become more secure and can become fully secure, honestly. Because you might think, oh, this is a fixed thing. I'll always have to deal with being anxiously attached. I'll always have to deal with having these anxious thoughts. No, you can actually get out of this. Because the thing is, these attachment styles, as people call them, they're not attachment styles. What they really are attachment wounds. And wounds can be healed. And this is what we'll dive into in the next point. And so that brings me to lesson number 2. Because just like physical wounds can heal, attachment wounds, mental wounds, emotional wounds, spiritual wounds can also heal. But there's a massive misconception that most people have about how to heal wounds. Because, well, we think, oh, you have a cut on your hand, right? You have a physical wound. Just give it a few days, it's gonna be healed again, right? We think the same is true for attachment wounds, for emotional wounds. Just give it more time, basically, right? Time will heal all your wounds. Well, here's the thing. Your body doesn't just take time to heal wounds, to heal physical wounds. Your body actually does a lot of stuff without going too deep into like the biology of things. Your body does a lot of different things, a lot of different actions to actually heal your wounds. And the exact same thing is true for emotional wounds. If you just give it more time. Like time, I'll explain this in like one last thing on this. Time, yes, is a necessary component for a physical wound to heal, just like it is for an emotional wound to heal. Because it takes some time to actually do the actions physically and emotionally to actually heal those wounds, right? But the thing is, time is just a component. It's not the cause of healing. A business mentor of mine told me a lesson last year that really stuck with me. And this applies to business, but it also applies to any other area of life, especially healing some kind of internal wound. He told me, if people ever tell you, if anyone ever tells you, just give it more time, if that's the piece of advice they give you, then they simply don't have any better advice to actually give you. And that's why they say, just give it more time, because that's the easy answer. That gets them out of it. That makes them seem valuable, right? But realistically, that's bullshit advice. And so this hit me when he said this to me, when my business mentor said this to me, because this is what people told me throughout my whole life, and it never worked for me. And I always had this sense, this inkling that I need to take some kind of action. I just didn't know what action to take. It's the exact same thing with healing attachment wounds. You need to take certain actions, and there's 2 parts to this. Let's dive into that right now. Now, part 1 of this is you need to see the truth within yourself, and I'll explain exactly how you can do that. Because the truth is, you won't die even if she leaves you, even if she cheats on you. You will be fine. You don't need to be afraid of those things. And so your nervous system, your attachment system, and your subconscious mind, they don't see it that way yet, but you can make them see it that way. And that's what we'll talk about here, because once that happens, then you just automatically feel more secure and are more secure, and you don't act in these anxious patterns anymore that destroy your relationship in the long run. And because I want to keep this stupid simple for you, so you can actually go and apply this to your life, I'll give you the one major thing that has helped both me and all of the men in my mentorship that I've helped overcome this. So what we did, what I did, what they did, what I told them to do was consciously confront those thoughts, those anxious thoughts, those limiting beliefs. Because here's the thing, how you rewire your subconscious brain is by conscious repetition of the truth. Write that down. You rewire your subconscious brain by conscious repetition of the truth. And you can do this with anything. If you have this limiting belief that you can only make 5K a month, right? Then that's not true. There's people making much more than that. So objectively, it's not true. But subjectively, in your mind, it is absolute truth for you, because maybe you've never met someone who makes more than that, right? Here's the thing, man. I was in that position. Like, this is an actual example. I thought I couldn't make more than 5K a month. Now I've had 20K months, right? Interesting. Thing is, what I did was I consciously looked at the truth, and I consciously re-brainwashed myself, because I was brainwashed by society to think that I can only make 5K a month. I re-brainwashed myself to believe that I can make much more because I see other people making more, and then it happened, right? And the thing is, when you consciously repeat the truth over time, your subconscious will start believing that as well. And then you get rid of those limiting beliefs, those anxious thoughts, whatever it might be. Look, man, maybe you saw your parents having a not so good relationship, so you think you will end up there as well. subconsciously, of course. Maybe you were cheated on by an ex-partner, and now subconsciously you believe that every girl is like that. Maybe you watch these cynical, immature red pill YouTubers that tell you that women are evil creatures trying to emasculate you. All these things led to you believing something that is not true. And of course, your nervous system, your attachment system, your subconscious mind believes these things and makes you act in these ways because, again, it wants to protect you. How you get rid of that, how you make your nervous system realize and your subconscious realize that you don't need to be protected, that you are an adult, a grown-up man who can protect himself, who doesn't need anyone, who wants a partner, yes, but they don't need that. How you do that is by firstly realizing that all these truths that you hold in your mind right now are not actually true. They're just beliefs. Just like, oh, I can only make 5K a month. That's not the truth. It's just a belief. But until you let go of those beliefs, whether it is about money or about relationships, until you let go of those beliefs, they will continue guiding your behavior and therefore holding you back from actually building the relationship that you truly want. Because thoughts create actions, beliefs create actions, and actions create reality, right? Actions are just a result of your thoughts and your beliefs. So until you change those, nothing will happen, nothing will change in reality because your actions won't change. You can try to force your way, right? You can try to force like the whole self-improvement way of things, like, oh, I'll just force myself to get up at 6 a.m. and this and that. Or you can just adapt the identity of someone who gets up at 6 a.m. like I've done for the last 6 years. I've gotten up every single day at 6 a.m. pretty much until unless I was ill or something. And it was super easy for me, and it still is super easy for me because I am just a person. I am someone who gets up at 6 a.m. I don't need to force myself into that. I am someone who's secure in a relationship. I don't need to act in ways that make me seem secure anymore, like I did when I was anxious, actually, right? By the way, I need to check the surf every once in a while because I want to go surf here in a second. And earlier the tide was too low, so I decided to film this video. But I think now it might actually look good. So we have to finish this video so I can go surfing. Let's go. Now, here's an actual example of something that I've done in my relationship, an actual situation that happened many, many times, and how I actually overcame my anxious thoughts in that situation. Because what would happen, for example, is I would text my girl and she wouldn't text me back in like 1, 2, 3 hours, which is something that's completely normal. She just didn't check her phone, just like I don't check my phone for like 8 hours sometimes. It happens, right? So what I would then think is, oh shit, she's probably sleeping with another man. That guy is about to text me, hey bro, stop texting her, she's busy, right? That was my actual thought. Like, I literally thought that stuff, which is crazy to me now because I would never think that stuff anymore. But back then, this was my reality. And the thing is, my mind in those moments constructed a reality that wasn't actual reality. It constructed this reality of, oh, she's sleeping with another guy, rather than actual reality, hey, she just hasn't checked her phone in 3 hours. Right? Simple as that. And so what I would do in those situations to actually overcome that and to not, like I did back then, act irrationally anymore, as in texting her 10 times, just like calling her 10 times, just trying to get some sign of life out of her so I know that she's not sleeping with another guy. What I did instead was I grounded myself in those moments. I sat with that pain and I actually looked at the objective reality that was actually happening. I forced myself to look at that. I sat with the pain and sat with, okay, cool, I'm feeling this, but this is just a feeling. This is nothing rational. And in those moments, I slowly but surely healed my anxious attachment because my mind, my conscious mind, told my subconscious, hey dude, like bro, subconscious mind, there's no danger here. She's just going out to dinner with her family, with her friends. That's why she hasn't texted you, because she doesn't check her phone while she's at dinner, or she's hanging out with other friends, or she's working, whatever it might be, right? Those were the actual truths. And often in those moments where I was able to ground myself and just look at the truth that was actually happening, look at actual reality, rather than reacting to the reality my mind constructed, I would usually just figure out, oh fuck, she told me she's going out to dinner with her friends, right? Simple as that. Nice. And then I was instantly reassured. Now that's part one, and part two is by far the most important thing that I'll say in this whole video, because I always keep the most important lessons and truths towards the end of these videos as a reward for guys like you who actually put in all this time to actually build a great relationship, because I think it's fucking awesome that more and more men want to build greater and greater relationships. So part one will get you far, but it will not get you all the way without part two. And part two is, you need to heal these attachment wounds. not just by yourself, but together with your girl. I'll explain this. And I want to give a quick shout out to this guy named Connor Beaton. He runs a YouTube channel called Man Talks, and specifically to his mentor named Dewey Freeman, who said, attachment is created in relationship and must be healed in relationship or solved in relationship. I don't know which word he uses, but you get the point. So let me break this down for you. There's multiple parts to this again. You need to essentially go up to her and open up about these anxious thoughts. And I know what you're thinking. Holy shit, Benny, why would I do that? That just makes me seem like a weak man. Why the fuck would I share these thoughts with her? Here's the thing, man. It will not make you seem like a weak man. I was very ashamed of having all these anxious thoughts for no particular actual reason. There was no actual, rational reason for me to have these thoughts. And so I was so ashamed of that. I thought it would make me look weak if I told her. I thought it would make me look like a fucking bum, essentially, and that she would leave me when I told her. But the moment I brought these things up to her, after years of keeping them, I need to say this actually, I kept these things hidden from her for years, literally 2 to 3 years into the relationship. I never even shared these thoughts with her because I was so ashamed. If I could overcome that, you can certainly overcome yours, because I'm pretty sure that you haven't kept this a secret for 4 or 5, whatever, how many years, right? The thing is, man, I had this mask on. I was pretending to be this secure man. But internally, I was becoming more and more anxious because I knew very well that I was not just lying to her about how I felt, but also to myself. I was resisting my own pain. And people say, what you resist persists. And not just does it persist, it actually becomes stronger. And the moment I brought these things up to my girl, everything changed almost in an instant, because she actually had a lot of understanding for that. My girl is very empathetic. She's very kind, essentially. She's just a kind person. Kind man? What the fuck? She's just a kind person. And she couldn't understand these thoughts instantly because she has never felt that way, but she was able to actually put herself into my situation, put herself into my mind, and actually then help me overcome this. And that's what we did. What helped me massively in actually taking that action to say these things to her is learning that shame, which is the thing that held me back, right? And likely the thing that's holding you back from actually bringing those things up. Shame can only survive in the dark. Meaning, the moment you bring shame to the light, it dissolves almost instantly, like if you put an ice cube into the sun. And so, the moment I brought these things up to her, and the moment I actually fully, honestly told her, hey, I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm so fucking anxious about you cheating on me. And she's like, what? What? Why would I do that? What the fuck? She was genuinely confused, right? She was concerned as well for my well-being, but she was also genuinely confused. But here's the thing that you haven't understood, the thing that nobody taught you. Your girl wants to treat you well. She fucking loves you. She's not the enemy. And of course, no one maybe consciously told you that she's the enemy, right? But if you watch these red pill YouTubers, or you look at your parents always fighting, you get this thing. You get this thought, this belief that that partners are enemies. She's not the enemy. She wants to treat you well, but she doesn't fucking know how. She doesn't know how to treat you well. Just like nobody ever told you and taught you how to treat a woman well, nobody ever taught her how to treat a man well. And the only person who can treat her, the only person who can teach her, who can guide her into treating you well is you. And here's another part to this. She knows that something is going on anyway. Like I said, yes, my girl was a bit confused, but she knew all along that something was going on. That I wasn't who I could be. She saw me as the man that I could actually be, because feminine intuition is much, much, much stronger than you can ever imagine. She knew there was something going on. Like, a woman can read your facial expressions so much deeper than any man can read those facial expressions. Just automatically, she doesn't even have to do anything for it. That intuition is just within her, it's innate. And so she saw me for who I truly was, but she saw there was a disconnect between my actual authentic self and the self that I was putting out into the world and putting out in front of her. The reason I'm telling you this is because you think, oh, if I share these things with her, if I share these anxious thoughts with her, if I share that I'm ashamed of these thoughts, then she will think less of me. That's not what's going to happen. She will think a lot higher of you because now she can see, oh, holy shit, that was what's going on. And now this man, that is my man, is actually living in integrity. Now he's actually honest to himself and honest to me. The only thing that you're doing by keeping these things to yourself is actually destroying the trust with her trust in you, because she sees day in, day out that you are not who you could be and that you are not showing her what you know deep inside. And the thing is, a weakness is only a weakness if you keep it a secret. Write that down. A weakness is only a weakness if you keep it a secret from yourself first and foremost. When you hide these things from yourself, when you don't admit to yourself that you have these anxious thoughts and that it's okay to have these anxious thoughts, what's going to happen very quickly is you will start trusting yourself less. But the moment you bring those things up, the moment you're honest with yourself and you are then honest with your girl, you will actually trust yourself a lot more, and you won't see those weaknesses as weaknesses anymore. You will actually see them as what they are, just a thought, just an anxious thought, just a belief, just a mindset, rather than reality. And then you don't need to be afraid of these things anymore. Because the moment that you share a weakness, what you signal to yourself is, this is not a weakness. I can embrace this and I can actually overcome this. I am strong enough to share these things and I am strong enough to overcome these things, because otherwise you wouldn't share them. Now, when you actually bring these things up to her, make sure that you are cautious of a couple of things. Firstly, go at it from a positive perspective. Tell her, I love you, right? That's how you start those conversations first and foremost. But then secondly, tell her that you are bringing these things up not to judge her or to judge yourself or to criticize her or yourself, but to simply overcome these things so that both of you can build a deeper, more connected relationship, right? Of course, if she has a very avoidant attachment style, then maybe that's not the way to go about it, right? If she has a very avoidant attachment style and she doesn't want a deeper, more connected relationship, she's afraid of that. Of course, she wants it deep down, but she's afraid of that. Then bring it up in other ways. Bring it up in a way of like, this will allow you, which it actually will do, it will allow you, it will allow you to, why am I saying this? What the fuck? Anyway, it will allow you to call her less, to be less needy, essentially, when you overcome these things, which is exactly what she wants. Exactly what makes her so upset and makes her pull away is your neediness, right? And of course, you both play a part in this, right? If you are in this anxious, avoidant dance kind of thing, then of course you both play a part in this. But the moment you become more secure, she also becomes more secure, because your behavior doesn't trigger her attachment system anymore. And then she can actually heal from her wounds as well. Now, that's how you bring these things up. But then you also bring them up in a way where you don't necessarily criticize her behavior. You simply say how you feel about those things, instead of saying or telling her, you need to stop doing these things. Because that's not the truth. If you were secure, she could do these things and they would probably not hurt you. Again, if it's like a dark red flag and it's like, I don't know, she's going out with male friends left, right, and center, and she's being kind of flirty with those friends. Of course, like, bring that up, right? And maybe don't be with that kind of woman, right? But either way, help her understand that your mind is creating a reality that is not actual reality. And that even if she goes out with male friends or whatever, your mind makes that like 1,000 times worse than it actually might be, right? And then what you can do is you can essentially figure out what she can do to make you feel more secure, and also what you can maybe do to make her feel more secure. Just start that conversation. It won't be one conversation. It will be many conversations over many weeks and months and maybe even years, right? But you can start right there with one conversation. And the thing is, you might think, oh, but my girl is very avoidant. She doesn't want me to feel better, or me to feel like she doesn't want to treat me better. She does want to treat you better, because she wants the result of that. She wants you to feel more secure, because then you don't have to be as needy, as pushy, like I said earlier, and then she can actually relax more and actually heal her attachment wounds, her avoidant attachment wounds herself, right? I'll give you an example of something that me and my girl have done that has helped me immensely, because I mentioned long distance earlier. We're on long distance right now because I'm in a different country. She's in Germany, right? And she's traveling back and forth between Germany and here. We've had that for years now. One of us was in Germany, the other one was traveling or living in different countries or whatever else, right? Here's the thing. One thing that we did whenever we were on long distance, that was obviously, like, for me, maybe it's not obvious, but it was for me the phase where I felt the most anxious, where I felt the most nervous about everything, right? Because she wasn't around. I couldn't just, like, drive over to her house and see her, she wasn't around, right? I didn't know what she was doing. And so what we did in those moments is I basically told her, or I asked her, could you call me a couple times every day? And she did. She called me a couple times every day. And what that signaled to me is she wants me. She cares about me. She will not leave me for some other guy. She puts in the effort to call me, to talk with me, to, like, I don't know, this thing, it was so simple, so subtle, but it changed a lot for me. It really shifted everything for me. And the thing is, and this is the crazy part, I often didn't even pick up the phone because my phone is on airplane mode 99% of the day when I'm working because I don't want to have any distractions, right? I didn't even see when she called me. But what I saw is when I took my phone off of airplane mode at lunch or at dinner, I saw, oh, nice, she called me she called me 2 times. Wow, she cares about me. That's what it signaled to me. That's a simple thing that maybe your girl can also do for you that will have a massive impact if that's something that is a situation that you're also in, right? Now I know exactly what you're thinking right now. You're like, holy shit, Benny gave me all the tools I need. This guy on YouTube gave me all the tools I need. I know exactly what to do now and like how to take the first few steps. But I'm afraid to do it. I'm terrified to do it. Well, first of all, man, everyone is terrified to do this. I was terrified to do this. But here's how you overcome this fear. The opposite of fear is surrender. Let me explain. Surrender doesn't mean resignation. Surrender doesn't mean being passive. Surrender means accepting every possible outcome, even the absolute worst potential outcome. You accept the possibility that you tell her all of this and she thinks you're a chump and she leaves you. And you visualize that. That's what I've done. You can visualize those situations. You can visualize yourself, even right now while I'm saying this, you can visualize and imagine, okay, what would happen? Okay, for the first few days after that, I would feel fucking terrible. Then I would feel probably even worse. I would cry myself to sleep, all those things. But then after a couple days or a couple weeks, I would maybe see this as motivation. I would see that maybe she even has a point. I would see that, first of all, also, this woman wasn't the right woman for me. And I would see that, honestly, I'm better off without a woman that calls me a chump because I have irrational, anxious thoughts, which I can't control, which are not my fault, right? This is what I also a quick side note here. You being in this state, you didn't cause that. Your environment, people around you, caused you to feel like this, right? Caused you to develop this anxious attachment. So don't judge yourself for it. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to get out of it, because otherwise you'll continue feeling like this forever and you'll continue having broken relationships forever. Now, when you surrender to that possibility that this might happen and you realize, holy shit, even if the worst possible outcome happens, after a couple of weeks or a couple months, I'll actually be fine. And actually, I'll be a lot better off because I shouldn't have been with that kind of woman in the first place. And all that pain gave me an opportunity to actually work on myself and actually make sure that this never happens again in the future. You'll be fine either way. It feels like dying, but you're not actually dying. You're gonna live the next day. You're gonna live the day after that. That's how you actually overcome this, by surrendering, by accepting that this worst possible outcome might happen, and then by preparing for the best possible outcome and thinking and making a plan and preparing for that conversation and actually figuring out how you can make that conversation as good and as productive as possible for both of you. And by the way, if you think right now, holy shit, this all makes so much sense, I want to tackle this, but I want someone by my side who can guide me towards actually overcoming this and actually building the relationship that I want, then I work with a handful of ambitious guys in their 20s or early 30s, and I help them take their relationship to that peaceful, secure, passionate, fun, fulfilling level where that relationship actually lasts a lifetime and they feel great in that relationship and their girl feels great in that relationship. In my mentorship, I give you all the tools and all the wisdom that you need to actually overcome this and actually build that relationship that you and her truly deserve. But most importantly, I make sure that you know exactly what to do and that you actually do it. So if that sounds at all interesting to you, you can hit the link in the description and fill out the application there. I'll read your application myself and I'll also reach out to you personally if I think that you're someone that I'd like to work with, and then we'll set everything up from there. So if you're interested, hit that link right now. And obviously, if you're not ready to take that step, if you're just here for the free videos, and that's completely fine as well. And then actually this video will serve you very well with implementing everything that I told you today, because learning all this stuff is one thing, but if you don't implement it, then all this learning is worthless. And in this video, I go more in depth about how I communicate better with my girl, how you can do that, and how you can also voice your needs better. So click that right now if that's interesting to you. I'll talk to you soon.